Welcome back, everybody. This is RGR Football. He's Dan Harms, my most accomplished guest at this point. He's always here. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Ryan?
Oh, I'm keeping it up. I still have the wonky internet, but I got new lights. I got all kinds of stuff. There's a new fermenter here, folks. You'll see that on the beer podcast. Lots of stuff going on, and it just so happened that it all happened the same weekend that the Chiefs figure out who they're going to get to play.
Yep.
And I'm pretty excited about it because I felt like the first meeting with the Texans was kind of not really an even match. They pretty much had their whole roster. The Chiefs were missing half of their starters. Injury to Mahomes, injury to Hill. There's a whole lot there. From what you saw over this weekend, how are you feeling about the initial look at this matchup?
Well, Bill O'Brien still cannot figure out how to get an offense going when it needs to get going. The first 15 plays that are supposed to be scripted for a team, I feel like they can never properly execute it. And that happened even against the Chiefs, and we went up big on them early and then just kind of fizzled out just like the Bills did. And I don't think that's going to happen this time around. So if I don't see them being able to properly execute that game plan, even with playing Will Fuller. He's not going to be 100%. He might not even be near 100%. And if they don't have that element of their offense, it becomes very pedestrian, in my opinion, even with DeShaun Watson.
Yeah, and I mean, two things. I've gone to calling DeShaun Watson Hercules after that game because he pretty much willed them to that win, right? Both with his body and his temperament. I'll give him credit there. But you bring up probably the most important aspect in Will Fuller because they didn't have him against the Bills. That gave them a little bit more opportunity to concentrate on Hopkins, which I think it probably helped the Bills a little bit. But here's the thing. It's a groin. Yeah. Groins never fully heal until the offseason. I don't care what anybody tells you. They're never 100%.
100%.
And Fuller's been a guy that, no offense, he's been a little fragile over the years. Things tend to nag on him. I feel like if he does play, he can't be near 100%, but is it enough? Do you think he's enough of a deep threat, even at, say, 75 or 80%, that the Chiefs have to do anything about it, or are you going to roll with what you've been doing?
I don't feel scared by a Will Fuller that's hammered by a groin injury. He's not going to be able to get that acceleration and the footwork like you need to be able to be that true deep threat. And I think that they're going to continue to do what they've done. Spags is going to he's kind of, these last few weeks, he didn't have to do all that much defensively. So there's not a whole lot on tape that is going to allow teams to plan for this. And he's going to have something different for the Texans, especially when they've had some time to prepare and rest up. And I think that he's going to have a plan. And the biggest thing for me is containing DeShaun Watson. If you can do that, then everything else is almost a non-factor, even with Hopkins as that threat. Their offensive line is awful, and the Bills got 7 sacks on DeShaun Watson. Should have been 8 with that last one that they missed. So they're going to be able to get pressure and get in his face and make him uncomfortable. And even though he doesn't really look all that uncomfortable, he's like Russell Wilson in the sense that their offensive lines are terrible. Even when their run game's not there, he's able to create offense out of almost nothing. He just kind of taps his wand or whatever it is, and he just appears to be. He gets kicked in the face, and he's able to make things happen. So DeShaun Watson is definitely that type of player. But this defense has been playing so well, and Spags has schemed such a great game plan throughout when they finally clicked as a defense. So I'm not that scared of this offense, and I think that they can really allow the Texans to run the football how they want to, and as long as they get them in 3rd and longs and stop the big plays downfield, then they're really going to have a good opportunity to win this game.
I feel like that too. A couple of differences that I see, and I want your take on them. Spags wasn't blitzing near as much when they played the Texans the first time as we've seen the last month of the season. They just weren't ready. And honestly, there was an interview, I think it was with Tyrann Mathieu on NFL.com. Folks, go find that. Really, really spoke to the fact that they didn't get to the point where they trusted the calls and they knew the calls inside and out really until halfway through the season when you started to see things pick up. And then the return of Frank and everything else, I think it all kind of coincided. But getting that point, this is a much different defense than they were then. And then on top of that, I don't feel like Carlos Hyde is really anything that they have to be worried about now that they figured out who they need to be on the field in order to stop the run.
Exactly, and they didn't have Mike Pennell last time, which who would have thought that he'd be such a difference maker for this run defense? And he comes in near the trade deadline, and he's just made it an immediate impact in the run game. And I'm not afraid of Carlos Hyde, even though he ran all over the defense that game. It's just that's not something that the Texans can instill fear. And I really wouldn't even be that afraid of Derrick Henry. You know, they ran for 182 yards on the ground and put up 14 points. So we're talking about a guy or a team that we can really let them run the football. And this defense, really, like you said, they've really figured out how to stop the run effectively enough to get teams in second and long and third and long situations that allows Spags to blitz the quarterback and get all these different looks and confuse the quarterback with different blitzes, guys coming from different places and backing out at the last second. So like you said, Spags has really figured out the strengths of these guys now. They've all kind of started to click, and that gives this defense something that we haven't seen since maybe the first or second year of the Andy Reid era.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like when I ranked them, I had a nice talk with Joe Marino over the weekend as we were getting ready for that, just a couple of minutes on Twitter, but really set what I hadn't thought about. It was like, who do I want them to get a chance to play? Who am I looking for? And honestly, the Texans were at the top of my list because I feel that they have the matchups deep. I feel like the only question mark really is, like you were getting at the blitz. One guy that's been blitzing well this season that isn't going to be available is Juan Thornhill. And we know that he played well at the back, but he's also a solid blitzer. And it's something that Spags was bringing in every now and then. I feel like Armani Watts has that ability, and he sent Kendall Fuller quite a bit this season, so Fuller's apt at it too. But what do you feel that, and we can talk about the back later, playing the deep safety, because I do think that is a question mark. But in terms of being available for the blitz, how do you feel about the change from what they have to do now versus when they had Juan Thornhill in?
I think that they have developed players enough, and most of them at this point understand what they need to do in those situations that Spags can really adjust on the fly. And they still have Sorensen, who's an excellent blitzer. I agree that Watts is someone that can get in there. He's not as fast as Thornhill, but he's got some speed and some quickness, and he lays the lumber when he gets in there on somebody. So I think they might even mix in a little bit of Dorian O'Daniel on passing downs, which will give them some more flexibility and allow them to bring Kendall Fuller or Armani Watts in those situations. So they have a good mix of blitzing safeties and secondary members that it's losing Thornhill obviously hurts because he's so rangy and he's been so good in the run game and in pass defense. But I think they're going to be able to manufacture certain aspects of his game with the pieces that they still have.
And I like the way you put that, manufacture, because it is somewhat about setting up your defense to be successful. And when I look at this matchup, especially now that we feel like Fuller's going to play, it looks like it's all leading that way. So what I had thought before was maybe a bit of an easier task with what I would have done is put Watts as the top end of a bracket on Hopkins because you didn't have Fuller on the other side, and just let the corners, do what they need to do, play trail and have Watts over the top. Now I feel like you have to play more cover two. You have to give them more of an even look because while Watts isn't super fast, he's fast enough from playing at a deep starting position that he can cover Fuller down the stretch because Fuller's going to run away from everyone else.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really, it does change just the fact that he might be there. And I don't know how long he'll be there, but how do you go about alignment now?
Yeah, and I think that we might see some limited snap count from Fuller. Obviously, with him still not being guaranteed to play in this game, that's kind of more gamesmanship on Bill O'Brien, in my opinion. I think he knows he's going to play, but he's telling the Chiefs that you don't really know, even though he's probably going to play. Mm-hmm. And even if he does have a snap count, I do think that they're going to have to respect his, at least the ability that he possesses. And I agree with you in the fact that we'll probably see a little more cover two like we saw in the Chargers game when Thornhill went out with Watts and Fuller. But I still think that they can really allow Matthew and Ward and Breeland to play up on their guys the way that they have all season. And I think that Ward played Hopkins extremely well, mm-hmm. especially one-on-one. And he made some plays. The interception was phenomenal. So I think that they have confidence in themselves, and Spags has the confidence in them to to continue to allow them to do what they've done best to this point, and they really shouldn't have to change all that much from what they've been doing.
Yeah, knock on wood. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, I feel this is really, it sounds strange to say that going up against an all-pro wide receiver is actually a good thing for Ward, but I feel like the best way to combat Hopkins is to be physical with him, and that's the best thing that Ward does. So I like where that's going, and I feel like it does set them up to be in a position that they don't have to change everything. Unlike the opposite, when the Chiefs are on offense,
oh yeah,
I don't feel like that secondary is anywhere near prepared in Houston to deal with Tyreek Hill and now Hardman, who I think is a different animal than he was the last time they saw him as well.
Yeah, from what I understand, I don't remember exactly who it is, but they just lost another corner before the Bills game, and that's just I get they have Connolly and Roby, who's played extremely well since coming over there, but you figure I would personally like to see a little bit less Demarcus Robinson if they're going to do 3 wide receivers and just throw speed at them with Hardman and Hill and Watkins and just say good luck, because they don't have that speed to keep up. And then when you continue to throw these receivers at them deep down the field, then you can have Williams out of the backfield in the intermediate parts and the flats, and Kelsey, who's so good in the middle of the field. Just the way that they can attack any defense in the NFL, especially now that they're fully healthy, is so unique with the speed and the skill. And Mahomes, who's obviously probably the best pure quarterback in the NFL. We don't want to obviously just bring Lamar Jackson because he's a different animal with the run aspect, and he's had a great year, but Mahomes still has that edge up. He's beaten the Ravens both times they played them. So this offense, like I've said in my articles leading up to it, they've hit their stride in the last 6 weeks. Mahomes is healthy. Everyone's healthy. They got everybody back. They don't have Cam Irving playing left tackle like they did against the Texans last time. And the Texans defense doesn't scare me, even with J.J. Watt back. I think that he played an incredible game against the Bills, and he should be commended for it. But I think that it may have taken a lot out of him, considering a lot of it was on adrenaline, and I still think he came back a little bit too early. He's almost inviting an injury with that pec muscle, even though he could be feeling great. I feel that he may have played a lot of that game against the Bills on nerve, because it was for them a win. They needed to win that game. Right. So now they're going to have to go into Arrowhead, and I don't see the Texans defense offering a lot of resistance to what this offense wants to do. But I could be wrong. I mean, I just don't personally. They're going to want to get revenge. So yeah. I feel like this is the matchup that you really wanted, like you said.
Motivation, I think, is the X factor for them as well as the Chiefs. If the Chiefs aren't motivated enough and they come in and they lay it down like they did against Tennessee the first time, bad things are going to happen. But I agree with you. I don't think it's much of a matchup. The matchup that I was really intrigued by, and we don't have to go deep on this, but I want to give the Texans fans that are watching, and not just them, but the Titans and the Ravens fans as well, I really love this matchup, only not just because I'm an old school let's run the ball kind of guy, but because I feel like they're pretty evenly matched in terms of playmaking ability. Henry's a home run hitter almost as much as Lamar is, and I think it's going to be coming down to the guys outside of the 2 stars that are really going to make the difference in that game.
But yeah, I definitely think that Derrick Henry, he's so difficult for me to like get in on, because sometimes you see him kind of disappear, and that may have just been the fact that Marcus Mariota was the quarterback and they felt like they had to maybe throw the ball a little bit more because he was such a high draft pick. But then they switched to Ryan Tannehill, and they've just been killing people with play action and just running the ball down everybody's throat. And that offensive line dominated. It wasn't even close to much of a fight with the Patriots defensive line. They did whatever they wanted to, and Henry just absolutely destroyed running lanes and holes, and he was just physical. And this is one of those, like you said, this matchup with 2 guys, that the quarterback that runs the football extremely well, and Derrick Henry, who runs downhill maybe better than any running back in the NFL at this point. It's so fascinating to see how these offenses are going to match up. And I get that the Ravens have one of the best defenses against outside zone in the NFL, but Derrick Henry's right now playing his best football. Ryan Tannehill's playing great, and I think that this matchup is going to be not only entertaining, but I think it could end up being more of a shootout than people expect because of that play action ability that AJ Brown, who's had a phenomenal rookie season, brings to this aspect of the offense.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned him because he's the guy that if the Ravens are going to win this, and I do think that it is a 55-45 kind of chance. I don't think it's as far gone as people think. But AJ Brown's got to be involved, and it's very strange to say that, like you said, for a rookie quarterback. But maybe there's an option where you put Marcus Peters on him and he follows him all over the field, and that's a great way to start because Marcus doesn't want to tackle Derrick Henry, so that's fine. Let him do what he does best. I really feel like it's going to be probably again the premier game of the weekend, maybe even tighter game, more so than the Chiefs and Texans. But if he comes down to it, who do you think does what in these games?
Just specifically that game, or just all of them in general?
Both of them. I mean, who wins these two?
Well, I do think the Ravens are going to eke out this win. I think a lot of it comes down to how healthy Mark Ingram is. I haven't heard much about his health after that injury he sustained. I believe it was the game before the end of the season. But if he's if he's not fully healthy, I think that really changes the way that they run the football. He's that Derrick Henry element to their running game, and he attacks so well downhill. And if he's limited in any capacity, I think that they might find some issues like running people over. But I think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to not only run on this defense, but he's going to be able to create. And not AJ Brown, but Hollywood Brown is still extremely fast. And I think that even though that the Titans played well defensively against the Patriots offense is so inept that it didn't really matter all that much. And Brown,
you didn't think he'd stay, huh?
I know, it's incredible that losing one player and Rob Gronkowski absolutely just changes the entire dynamic of an offense, but he does. So I think that the Ravens will win by a touchdown. It'll probably be close late going into the fourth quarter, but they'll pull away and maybe let a garbage time touchdown up. But it'll be fun to watch for that game. And then obviously with the Chiefs, you did mean the Chiefs and the Texans, right?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one too?
So I've never saw this rematch as much of a rematch. Maybe it's just because I don't think that the Texans defense is that good. I don't see them being able to keep up and put up 31 points like they did on the Chiefs defense last time. And that I think is going to be the biggest X factor in this game. I think they're going to go up big early, and they're going to try show everybody in the NFL that yes, DeShaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, they're great young quarterbacks. So Patrick Mahomes is pretty far in a way the best of the bunch, and I think he's going to come out slinging it, and they're going to put up points in bunches, and the Texans are going to get overwhelmed.
I kind of feel that as well. I do see it being Ravens and Chiefs for the AFC Championship. So knock on wood that it all comes through. I think that you're right, and I hope I'm right too. So we'll go with that.
We all hope so. Granted, I was 0-4 with my picks last week, so we'll see.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, we're going to skip over that because I did pretty good. So okay. Well, that said, if it doesn't, then we'll come back to film. But if not, we'll get back next week and we'll start looking at that game. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. And folks, if you haven't followed Dan yet, it's at Dan Harms _19.
Every time. This is every week, man. It's D_Harms 19.
At least I had the 19 right this time.
You did have the 19 right.
And for you folks that are watching, right? And for you that are watching that aren't Chiefs fans, for you Texans, Titans, and Ravens fans, check out Dan's work. It's Chiefs driven, but you might want to get some info on what's coming at you. So appreciate you guys clicking today. For all of you that are here that aren't subscribed, hit that sub button, the notification bell. Leave your comment below and leave us a thumbs up if you like this particular video. We'll be back with you for more, and we'll get Dan back next week too. So thanks for the time, and we'll talk to you next time.